Rob, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Hi, Joe. Happy to be here.
I really appreciate you carving out some time for me and our viewers and listeners. So, before we get into some of the key trends in sustainability, give us a little bit of a snapshot of your role at Schneider Electric.
Yeah, I work within the CTO Office of Secure Power, and we're the group that looks after all of our solutions for the data center segment. And typically we're looking at the solutions, technologies, and trends that are affecting the marketplace number of years out.
Excellent. Got it. Okay. Now, on the one hand, listen, as a sustainable tech partner, we surely believe in the greening of data centers. On the other hand, we always want to be careful not to hype the market and to avoid greenwashing. So from your perspective, the greening of data centers, that can mean different things to different people. What exactly does it mean to you and your clientele and your partners?
Yeah, so in fact, we don't even like to use the word greening too much for exactly the reasons that you just said. It's really got some negative connotations. But if we talk about the sustainability of data centers, there's a number of things we look at. In fact, a couple of years ago, we kicked off, we did a paper on like, what would you even measure for sustainability of the data center, right? And what would you want to improve? And we, in fact, we just did a new revision of that paper, but it's, it was like 5 areas of impact that we think, right? From energy, greenhouse gas emissions, water, waste, and the local ecosystem. So that rounds out the things that operators should be thinking about, and well, actually designers and operators should be thinking about with regards to sustainability of the data center, right? It's not just energy efficiency, and it's not just carbon.
So who do you think should be at the table, and who's increasingly at the table with you on the customer side of the conversation?
Right. So our point of entry or main interactions are generally the facility operators, the physical facility, right? The power and the cooling aspect, right? Schneider Electric. But the CIO really has to take a holistic view of the whole thing, right? Which includes the IT equipment. To look at that. So, but, again, historically, energy efficiency, I'm sure you've heard of the term PUE, power usage effectiveness. That's the one metric everybody used. And everybody's trying to go, what's beyond that? What are the other metrics? But yeah, it's facilities folks mainly.
Okay, great. And obviously I'm aware of all the solutions that you offer within the data center and around the data center. But what about externally? Are you getting involved in helping facilities managers and data center operators understand the renewable energy sources that can be coming into their data centers?
Right, that's a great point. And in fact, I'm going to I'll revise my previous statement in that.
All right.
More organizations have chief sustainability officers.
Sure.
With all the large data center operators out there, they have very senior people looking at the sustainability of all of their operations. And we interact with all of those. Schneider Electric has a sustainability business, which will do everything from, helping customers set targets to how do you purchase renewable energy, to just understanding baseline where you are from a sustainability perspective, scope 1, 2, and 3. So we do have a business that covers all of that, not just products to help.
Yep, absolutely. Another interesting point there on those chief sustainability officers, all the research that I've seen talks about, in many cases, not all, but in many cases, there's a gap between the chief sustainability officer and the CIO or the CTO, where it seems to me that in many cases, the chief sustainability officer is focused on the supply chain or product packaging and things like that. And they're not quite aligned yet with the IT department and the CTO, the office of the CTO. Are you helping to close that gap, or do you even see the gap? Is the gap already closed?
Yeah, no, there is, when you put your head down and you study sustainability and you're trying to run fast, you forget how far the industry still has to come, across all job levels, right? So there might be high-level goals that is set by, the C-level in an organization, but there's so much learning that has to happen throughout the organization to really make an impact. So every time you think, the industry is making huge progress, and then you just run across people that are just starting the journey on figuring out what actions they need to take to improve.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And in terms of those actions to improve, how far along do you think we are on the journey? Are certain vertical markets further ahead, certain regions or company sizes vertical ahead? Are there laggards without, without pointing out the laggards? How do you
yeah,
see?
yeah. So in general, I think most people would see that, Europe has generally been in the lead with regards to sustainability goals and regulations and things like that, and as it's applied to the IT industry. But all the large operators based out of the U.S. and all the names from Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Meta and all these folks, they all have very aggressive sustainability goals, and the organizations are aligned to try to meet those goals. There's a ton of work, and a lot of people working on, how do we meet these, carbon and, carbon net zero goals that they have. So the big players are really making it happen, both from a cloud player perspective as well as the large co-location companies. And then as you trickle down to the smaller operators, yeah, it's just people trying to catch up and understand where they have to be.
Yeah, understood. One thing we haven't really talked about, you may have touched on it earlier, but I haven't brought it up yet, is sort of the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, and navigating all that. For a small business in particular, I think that can be overwhelming, but even the larger guys, I think many larger companies are still trying to navigate that. Are you seeing progress in all 3 areas, or are certain areas ahead? How do you see that landscape?
Right. So when you look at the emissions from a data center, typically, right, getting scope 2 under control or understanding where it is I say relatively easy for people that have started to look at it, right? It's your emissions from purchased electricity.
Okay.
And so understanding the mix of your local grid or using power purchase agreements and RECs to go net zero. Those are known ways to do it. The large guys are doing it, and the large enterprises are doing that. So they're really getting their, scope 2 emissions kind of known and under control. Local emissions, same thing. There's not a whole lot of scope 1, right? Running the generators of a data center stuff, they're not that too much. The big, elephant in the room is the scope 3, of which most people call embodied carbon. So all the equipment you're purchasing on the facility side and the IT side, especially as your grid gets greener or you're doing power purchase agreement, the biggest line on your Pareto chart is going to be the embodied carbon. And that is the industry and the large guys knows that's now the new main thing to focus on. And there's progress being made, but we're not where we need to be yet.
Okay. Do you think we're getting better at defining those standards in terms of everyone agreeing on what exactly should be measured in scope 3 and what really does? I mean, you can get crazy granular if you really want to.
Right. Yeah. So there are standards, like there's, third-party organizations, like Eco Passport, which Schneider uses to help define our, where we do the life cycle analysis, and we call them the PEPs, the product environmental profile. And it gives you the standards on, how you measure it, how you report it. And it's like a spec sheet, just like for a product, how heavy is it? How tall is it? How efficient is it? And then, how much carbon is embodied, how much is it used. So those are defined, but they're not fully standardized across the industry. So there are organizations in the data center industry, 2 of them are like the Open Compute Project as well as iMasons, that are trying to work towards standardizing for all the typical IT and facility equipment in the data center, how those are reported so that it's not all over the place.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, on the one hand, these large mid-sized, large data center providers and cloud scale providers are all trying to sort of measure and put a number on scope 3, right, in their own cases. But then they're supporting thousands, if not millions, of small businesses, such as mine. Like, I'm a small business owner. Right. I'm probably working with 2 or 3 of various hosting providers. Do you think the day will come sooner rather than later that I'll be able to very easily get the scope 3 data from them so that I can be a better tenant in all this as well?
Absolutely. So, so if you look at you as an organization, right? And so what is Joe's scope 1, 2, and 3, right? The lights on in your office and your computer running is your scope 2, right?
Right.
You're purchasing services, probably some cloud services,
Yep.
right? That's your upstream scope 3,
Yep.
and that's going to be your service providers downstream scope 3, right?
Right.
And so, and that's, how much energy are they using to provide you those services, and what are the emissions from those services? And they are absolutely, working on getting that, right? Large corporation uses a ton of software as a service, and so to be able to reasonably accurately report to your customers what that carbon emission is very important.
Got it. Okay. Now, as we talk about this sustainability journey and the way you're helping customers, I know partners are also very important to your strategy,
Yes.
and having those partners empowered to help the customer. Can you talk a little bit about how you're working with partners so far, and what type of adoption or momentum you're seeing in the partner base out there?
Yeah, we hope, right. The partners are an extension of our organization, right? And being able to help their customers with sustainability is very important. So that's why we've developed a lot of white papers and tools and things for them to be able to use to, one, educate themselves, and then leverage that for to support their own customers and helping them in their sustainability goals.
Got it. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think we covered a few months ago. It might have been a few weeks ago. We're recording this in late July. But I think you announced a sustainability school where the partners could go on and consume some education materials. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's definitely an important asset. And again, I've been involved, and we have a team of researchers that produce white papers that are not propeller head papers and not marketing papers. They're actually very digestible by normal people to help on those journeys, and also trade-off tools to help educate and estimate things.
Yeah. Listen, by the way, I'd put myself in that normal category. It's one of the reasons we launched Sustainable Tech Partner. I've in a previous life, I covered MSPs and IT service providers more from the traditional managed IT services market. And I saw this massive market void in terms of what leaders like Schneider Electric are doing, and what the rest of the market is lagging on in terms of educating these partners. So it's good to see that education out there. Looking ahead, as partners, maybe they're watching this, listening to this, reading the related blog, as they're trying to get up to speed on this, are there particular URLs or landing pages they should check out to go get more information?
I would recommend two. One is what you already mentioned, right? The sustainability school is a key asset. And then if you're trying to get educated on just carbon, right? That's probably the largest sustainability item. We have there's a white paper, but there's a trade-off tool where you can go in and actually put in a data center size, kind of estimate how it's designed. And it will give you a rough estimation of what the lifetime carbon footprint is of that. Right. The whole purpose of that tool is just to give people a sense of where they might be. It's not a reporting or super accurate, but it at least give an idea of where you can start. And I think from an education perspective, that'll be key.
Fantastic. So what we'll do for readers and listeners out there and viewers, we'll make sure that the URLs that Rob just mentioned are embedded in the blog, so you can just point and click onto that. But hey, Rob, in the meantime, thank you so much for the education. I appreciate it. It was great to catch up with you.
Yeah, no, thanks for your time. Enjoyed it.